let me bring the matter of the economy to Dr. Dogo. He mentioned the rebasing of the economy, and I think our economy was valued at 8 trillion or something, or 80? Mm-hmm. One of the two anyway, which meant that we're one of the biggest economies in Africa.
I think it's 80.
When you look at the infrastructure, does it speak of an economy that large? You look at the roads, you look at electricity, you look at water supply, and you look at the life of the people. You can see screaming poverty, you can see filth. Does that justify what they tell us that this economy is now worth?
I will start by saying, on behalf of myself, my family, and the PDP family, we offer our condolences to our beloved brethren in the northeast and other parts of Nigeria that have lost their loved ones for one reason or another. We feel very, very deeply sorry and regret that. Then I now come back to the economy. In the Nigerian context, in the real sense of it, those who are economists, if you take all the variables together and you start computing, the rebasing could have been much higher. In economics, probably we look at just a few aspects of it, and we do not put in consideration so many other areas. I give an example. Take the agri sector and the developments and the improvements that have happened in the past few years, and quantify it in real monetary terms. And what do you get? Can you honestly say that we have not shifted by more than 1,000 times what we were even 3 or 4 years ago? The answer is that we have. If you take this power sector and you look at it, people only look at the aspect of saying, look, you have to have power all the time. You do not look at the base of what is taking place. You have to look at the base of what is taking place and what you hope to achieve in the future. If you don't have those structures, is it possible to have it? Remember, power is a long-term project. It's not a project that you say, look, when you do it today, you reap it tomorrow. And what has been set aside, what is being done at present, the future, I can categorically say the sky is the beginning, not the limit. In terms of the power sector, I am just analyzing it. No. Before you go ahead, you have asked me a question of rebasing, and I'm trying to bring in the factors that make people to rebase the economy, and you look at them critically, and you now assess to see whether it is justifiable or not. You know,
I must make a comment about something you have said.
Yeah.
You opened by saying, on behalf of the PDP family, the PDP has been in power for the last 15 years, and you tell us that power is a long-term thing. The PDP has been there for 15 years. So how much does long-term mean? 50 years?
You can even say that there has been no government in Nigeria for the past 40-something years before the PDP came into power 15 years ago. And with those governments, they were not supposed to provide power. Is that what you are saying? And if they have been there for 15 years and you have a government that was there for 40 years and it was not done, is it practically possible to say, under the administration of President Goodluck Ebele Azikiwe Jonathan, to say with all that he has done and all the infrastructure that has been put in place and all the foundation that is being built, then you will say that, look, it is something wrong? If the other people did not and he's doing it, isn't it just right to give him the credit and to say, look, there is a plan, there is a process, there is a program.
You're not on the soapbox, please. You're not on the soapbox.
I may not be, but we are just looking at reality. And it confirms me. And I started by giving you the aspect of agriculture before the power, and I can go on and on other aspects.
Please don't go on yet, Dr. Dogo.
In those that existed and those that exist now, and what we have ahead.
Okay, we have since been joined by Mr. Malaki Igumadu, a legal practitioner.
Thank you for having me.
We are looking at the state of the nation, and now we've just talked about the economy, but let me throw the issue of security to you, which seems to be a major issue in the country now. Do you think that government is doing enough regarding security? In the course of the week, I'm sure you saw the Chief of Army Staff, the military was invited to Senate, and we were hoping that the discussion would border largely on general security matters, but it was pinpointed to the elections, the coming up elections, and if elections were going to be held in certain areas of this nation.
Sorry for being a little lately. I thought I would have been given the opportunity to speak on an area where I will follow cue from my colleagues who, from every indication, have hopes against hopes. But if you talk about security, I'm going to be very blunt to say that even the blind can see. The deaf can also hear what is going on in the country. It has been one of the worst weeks, one in which the insurgent group in the northeast able to reclaim the Chibok area. And again, you would recall that moments preceding that, the hopes of Nigerians were dashed when we were told about the ceasefire deal. That came from the hierarchy of the military. And we were quite very satisfied, believing that eventually they are trying to navigate around that issue and find a way around it. Now, you also would have heard that in the course of the same week, we've had the crash of about 2 military helicopters, you know, in circumstances that also are reminiscent of the one that just simply disappeared. And we all told stories. Now, I am not making these statements oblivious of the sensitive nature of security to the existence of any nation. Indeed, once the security index of a nation is in doubt, you are beginning to record one of the conditions of a failing state. No matter what your GDP say, no matter what the rebasing account gives. And I know that it has become a very bad one for the present government. The issues are not exactly because the previous governments have done nothing on that score. It is that we cannot continue to blame preceding governments. We have the President Jonathan administration to deal with. I would imagine that it must have been a function of very serious frustration on the part of the invitees or those who invited them, so that instead of dealing with the realities on the ground, they are focusing on 2015 general elections. But let's face it, that general election, I think we'll do well in reconstructing the language this time, because I'm not sure it's going to be a general election. You cannot be conducting elections in part of the countries that have been totally demobilized, overwhelmed by insurgent groups. As I understand it, they've taken strategic organs of state functions, state of House of Assembly, the Secretariat, and so on and so forth. I don't know the kind of military training you will give those whom you are going to give a marching order to go and conduct elections in those places. Even the military themselves, the officials of the military, you know, are fleeing the areas. So I thought you asked me questions that will maybe make you from this, but I don't have any.
No, you have raised